Fine. So we had finished your discussions on your SN1 reactions. Yes, we have discussed extensively. We have discussed in details. What do you mean by SN1 reaction? What are the factors affecting SN1 reaction? Okay. So not only that, we had also discussed about your stability of carbocation. Okay, the order of reactivity towards SN1.
Yes, sir.
Right. So today we shall just move towards the second part, that is your SN2 reactions. Okay, we'll move towards the SN2 reactions. Fine. So what do you mean by SN2 reaction? We have already discussed this fact. What is SN2 reaction? It means nucleophilic substitution bimolecular. Okay, so the main difference between SN1 and SN2. So listen, SN1 reaction, it occurs in two steps. Yes, and number one step, a carbocation was formed, right? And we had discussed about the stereochemistry of SN1 reaction. What type of products are formed? Here, racemic mixture was formed. Okay, 1:1 mixture of two enantiomers were formed. And since a racemic mixture were formed, okay, since a racemic mixture were formed, here the overall, okay, so write down here stereochemistry of SN1 reaction. Stereochemistry of SN1 reaction. So what type of products are formed in here during your SN1 reaction? We are going to discuss. Okay, now see. So the first step, suppose we have an alkyl halide like this. These are the three bonds and we have a halogen. Okay, so what happens during an SN1 reaction? During an SN1 reaction, there is going to be an ionization of the substrate leading to the formation of a carbocation. Okay, leading to the formation of a carbocation. And remember, a carbocation is sp2 hybridized. Means what is the structure of this carbocation? It is trigonal planar. Trigonal planar means there are three bonds in a carbocation. The carbon is bonded to three bonds, and all the three bonds, they are in the same plane. Okay, they are in the same plane. That means they are said to be planar. Okay, now what was the second step of an SN1 reaction? In the second step, the nucleophile attacks this carbocation. Okay, now since the carbocation is planar in nature, what happens? The nucleophile can attack from the side of the leaving group. The leaving group was departing from this direction. The nucleophile can attack the carbocation from the same side, or it can attack the carbocation from the opposite side. So there are two possibilities out here. Okay, there are two possibilities out here. Okay, so the nucleophile, number one possibility is the nucleophile can attack this carbocation from the same side of leaving group like this. Or there is another possibility that the nucleophile can attack from the opposite side of the leaving group. It can attack from the opposite side of the leaving. Okay, so now let us see what type of products are formed. Let us see what type of products are formed. Now, if the nucleophile attacks from the same side as that of a leaving group, okay, so we get this product. We get this product. Fine, and there is another possibility that the nucleophile may attack from the opposite side of the leaving group. In that case, we get this product. Okay, so nucleophile can attack the carbocation from the same side of leaving group, giving this product, or the nucleophile can attack the carbocation from the side opposite to that of the leaving group when we get this product. Okay, and when the nucleophile attacks the carbocation from the same side, the products are known to be formed with retention of configuration. So here this product is known to be formed with a retention of configuration. retention of configuration. Okay, retention of configuration means the nucleophile has attacked the carbocation from the same side of the leaving group. Okay, and when the nucleophile attacks the carbocation from the opposite side of the leaving group, the products are known to be formed with a inversion of configuration. Inversion of configuration. So whatever products are formed, there are two products which are formed. One product, okay, which is formed with a retention of configuration, and the other product which is formed with a inversion of configuration. Okay, so they are formed in what amount? 50% of products are formed with retention of configuration, whereas 50% of products are formed with a inversion of configuration. That is a 1:1 mixture of product is formed. Okay, 1:1 mixture of product is formed. So if we consider the stereochemistry of SN1 reaction, then we see that equal amounts of two products are formed. Whatever products are formed, 50% of products are formed with retention of configuration. Retention means the nucleophile has formed a bond from the same side like this, retained. And inversion of configuration means the nucleophile has formed a bond from the opposite side of the leaving group. So they are formed in equal amounts. And this type of products, okay, this type of products, they are known as, this type of products are known as a racemic mixture. What are they known as? They are known as a racemic mixture. They are known as a racemic mixture. Now, if we just closely look at the structure of these two compounds, then yes, can I say that this compound and this compound, what type of relationship do they bear? They bear a non-superimposable mirror image relationship. So this molecule is the mirror image of this molecule. What type of molecule? Non-superimposable mirror image relationship. And this type of molecules having non-superimposable mirror image relationships are known as here. What are they known as? Yes, they are known as here enantiomers. They are known as here enantiomers. So remember, during an SN1 reaction, an equal amount of two enantiomers are formed. A 1:1 mixture of two enantiomers are formed. And this type of mixtures containing equal amount of two enantiomers are known as a racemic mixture. So what are enantiomers? Enantiomers are molecules. Okay, enantiomers are molecules. Enantiomers are molecules which possesses, okay, whatever relationship, non-superimposable, okay, mirror image relationship. Okay, so what is the final stereochemistry of SN1 reaction? Remember, in an SN1 reaction, a racemic mixture is formed. What is a racemic mixture? A racemic mixture is a 1:1 mixture of two enantiomers. What are two enantiomers? What are enantiomers? Molecules which bears a non-superimposable mirror image relationship. And out of the enantiomers, 50% are formed with retention of configuration, and the other 50% is formed with retention of configuration. Retention means the nucleophile forms a bond from the same side as that of the leaving group. Inversion means the nucleophile forms a bond from the opposite side of the leaving group. Okay, and remember, this type of mixture or this type of racemic mixture, they are said to be optically inactive. They are optically inactive. They are said to be optically inactive. Okay, so now let us discuss in details what do you mean by this optical activity. Okay, let us discuss what do you mean by this optical activity. Okay, so this is the overall stereochemistry of SN1 reaction. So please remember, in an SN1 reaction, since a planar carbocation is formed, there are equal chance that a nucleophile can attack from the same side or from the opposite side, giving rise to two enantiomers like this. And a 1:1 mixture of two enantiomers are known as a racemic mixture. And the racemic mixture are known to be optically inactive. Okay. So first of all, let us try to understand what do you mean by this optical activity, or what are optically active compounds. Okay, so I think we have not done, we have not discussed about this optical activity. So today we are going to discuss it. Okay, so what do you mean by optically active compounds? Okay, so certain organic compounds, not all, certain organic compounds have the ability to rotate the plane of plane polarized light. Okay, so such molecules are called optically active molecules. Okay, such molecules are called optically active molecules, and the phenomena is called optical activity. So this is the definition. Okay, so we are going to understand this. So what do you mean by optical activity? Certain organic molecules have the ability to rotate the plane of, they have the ability to rotate the plane of plane polarized light. Okay, so such molecules which can rotate the plane of plane polarized light are called optically active molecules, and the phenomena is known as your optical activity. So now let us analyze this definition. What do you mean by this? What are optically active compounds? Let us see. Okay, so ordinary light coming from an ordinary source. Okay, light coming from an ordinary source. Okay, they propagate in all the 360 directions. So there is a normal source of light. So the waves which comes from a normal source of light, okay, the waves coming out from a normal light, they propagate in, or they vibrate in all the 360 direction like this. Okay, they are known to vibrate or they propagate in all 360 directions like this. Okay, so this is a normal source of light. This is a normal source of light. Fine. Now, when such lights are passed through an instrument, known as a polarizer, when such lights pass through an instrument known as a polarizer, okay, what happens then? The light, after they come out of the polarizer, they are known to vibrate in only one direction. They vibrate in only one direction like this. Okay, they vibrate in only one direction like this. So such lights which vibrates in only one plane are known as a plane polarized light. They are known as a plane polarized light. Simple. Okay, so normally what happens is light, they vibrate in all the 360 direction, but when it passes through an instrument known as a polarizer, after the light comes out of this polarizer, the light will vibrate in only one plane. So there is a plane, so the light will vibrate in only this plane. So this kind of light which vibrates in a single plane are known as a plane polarized light. Okay, and when such plane polarized light are passed through a solutions of certain organic compounds. So this is a solution containing certain organic compound. Okay, this is a solution containing an organic compound. Okay, so what are you doing? You are passing a plane polarized light. So ordinary source of light, if you pass through a solution, what will happen? It will just pass through it. It will just pass through it. But when plane polarized light are passed through a solution of certain organic compounds, then what happens to them is, this plane polarized light, it was going in this direction. So we expect them to come out of the tube in the same direction. But what happens? these organic compounds which are optically active, what do? They rotate the plane of plane polarized light like this. After passing through the solution, the plane polarized light, they gets rotated either in the right hand side or in the left hand side like this. Okay, the plane polarized light, they get rotated in the left hand side or in the right hand side. Okay, so these gets rotated either towards the right hand side like this or towards the left hand side. So such organic compounds, such molecules which has the ability to rotate the plane polarized light are known as optically active molecules. Okay, so in what directions do they rotate? They rotate the plane polarized light in two directions. What are the two directions? Either in the right hand side or in the left hand side. And remember, molecules which rotates the plane polarized light towards the right hand side, they are known as dextrorotatory. They are denoted by small d or a plus sign like this. They are denoted by a small sign, small d or a plus sign. So what are dextrorotatory molecules? Optically active molecules which rotates the plane polarized light towards the right hand side are known as a dextro. And those which rotates the plane polarized light towards the left hand side, they are known as a levorotatory. They are denoted by small l or a minus sign. Okay, they are denoted by a small l or a minus sign. Now, is it understood what a plane polarized light? Yes. What are optically active molecules? So optically active molecules are those molecules which has the ability to rotate the plane of plane polarized light. Okay, and those optically active molecules which rotates the plane polarized light towards the right hand side are known as a dextrorotatory, while those which rotates towards the left hand side are known as a levorotatory compounds. Okay, so such molecules are known as optically active molecules. That means optically active molecules, they rotate the plane polarized light towards the left hand side or towards the right hand side. Okay, now in an SN1 reaction, what type of compounds do we get? We get a mixture of two enantiomers. We get a racemic mixture. So what is a racemic mixture? Racemic mixtures are those, okay, which contains equal amount of two enantiomers. So we got this type of mixture. We got this inversion of configuration. We got this retention of configuration. Okay, what was the mixture? What was the ratio? 1:1. Right? So these are two enantiomers. Out of the two enantiomers, if one is a dextro, then the other has to be a levo. So from the formula, we cannot say which one is D or which one is L. So I'm just writing it here. If one is D, the other has to be L. Well, individually, they are optically active. Right? Each of the enantiomers are optically active. Each of the enantiomers are optically active, but these mixture as a whole, what is this mixture known as? 1:1 mixture is known as a racemic mixture. It is denoted by plus minus. It is denoted by plus minus. Okay, so individually these are optically active, but since they are formed in equal amounts, the racemic mixture, these are optically inactive. These are optically inactive. So remember, the final products of SN1 reactions are optically inactive. Why? Because a racemic mixture is formed. Okay. So now, what is the reason now? See, if this dextro rotates the plane polarized light towards the right hand side by 30°, okay, this compound, okay, dextro compound is rotating the plane polarized light by 30° towards the right hand side. Now, equal amount of levo is also present. Now, what will this do? This will again rotate the same plane polarized light towards the left hand side by how much? By 30. That means the light is coming back to its initial. Dextro was rotating by 30. Levo will now rotate towards the another opposite direction by 30°. That means it is coming to its initial position. That is why this racemic mixture, they are known to be optically inactive. So this will rotate by minus 30°. Minus means towards the opposite direction. That is why these racemic mixture which are formed during an SN1 reactions, remember, they are known to be optically inactive. They are known to be optically inactive. Okay. So what are the conditions for a molecule to be optically active? How do we come to know whether an organic molecule is optically active or not? Okay, how do we come to know whether a molecule is optically active or not? Okay, now for a molecule to be optically active, okay, for an organic molecule to be optically active, okay, so it must possess a chiral carbon. It must possess a chiral carbon. So whatever molecules are optically active, for a molecule to be optically active, okay, it must possess at least one chiral carbon. It must possess at least one chiral carbon. So what do you mean by a chiral carbon? A carbon atom which is tetrahedrally, okay, a carbon which is tetrahedrally bonded to 4 different atoms or groups. A carbon which is tetrahedrally bonded to 4 different atoms or groups are known as a chiral carbon. They are known to be chiral carbon. Okay. So I can give you many examples. Say for example, say I'll just take an example of, say I have carbon, it's bonded to an ethyl, it's bonded to say one methyl group, ethyl group, it's bonded to one hydrogen atom, it's bonded to one say chlorine. So this carbon, it's bonded by single bond, means it is sp3 hybridized, means it is tetrahedrally bonded to 4 different atoms or groups. Okay, each of the group or atoms are different. So such carbon atoms which are bonded to 4 different atoms or groups are known as a chiral carbon. So this is a chiral carbon. So this molecule, yes, it can be optically active. This molecule is optically active since it satisfies the condition A. Okay, what is the condition for a molecule to be optically active? It should possess a chiral carbon. And these molecules which possesses a chiral carbon, they are known as asymmetric molecules. Okay, they are known as asymmetric. They are known as asymmetric. Okay. Now, if I consider this carbon, then say I have CH3, I have one more CH3. It's bonded to one hydrogen and it's bonded to one, say, bromine. So is this molecule optically active? We have to see whether there is a chiral carbon or not. Okay, so obviously this is not a chiral carbon. It's bonded to 3 identical atoms. This is not a chiral carbon. It's bonded to 3 identical atoms. What about this carbon? We have hydrogen bromine, but again this is bonded to 2 identical methyl groups out here. They are bonded to 2 identical methyl groups. So this molecule does not possess a chiral carbon. So it's optically inactive. This molecule is here optically inactive. This molecule is here optically inactive. Fine. So we'll just keep our discussions till here. What is you mean by optical activity? We understood. What are the conditions for a molecule to show optical activity? What is a racemic mixture? What is a dextro? What is lever? Okay, you should be having a preliminary idea about these things. So just the bottom line is that even if you start with an optically active compound, if it undergoes the reaction through SN1 mechanism, then the product of SN1 reactions are optically inactive. बस वो याद कर लेना है. The starting compound might be optically active, but the products of SN1 reaction will be optically inactive. The products of SN1 reaction will be optically inactive. Okay, fine. So, okay. SN2 reaction. Okay, so remember SN1 reaction, it occurs in 2 steps, but SN2 reaction, unlike SN1 reaction, SN2 reaction, it occurs in a single step. it occurs in a single step, okay, where the loss of a leaving group, and attack of or by a nucleophile occurs in the same step. That means it is a single step reaction. Unlike SN1, which occurs in two steps, okay, SN2 reaction, it occurs in the single step. Okay, and in this single step, loss of leaving group and attack of the nucleophile occurs in the same step. Okay, so what does this mean? Let us see now. Okay, so listen very carefully, it's going to be very important. So we have an alkyl halide. Okay, and we have discussed now time and again that this bond is polar in nature. Why is it polar in nature? Because of electronegativity difference. Because of electronegativity difference, this bond is polar in nature. So if we have a nucleophile out here, we have a nucleophile. So what does a nucleophile do? Now, till now we have developed an idea. What is a nucleophile? A nucleophile attacks an electron deficient carbon atom. Which is an electron deficient carbon atom? This. Why is it electron deficient? Because it has positive charge. Why does it have positive charge? Because of electronegativity difference. So if the reaction occurs through SN2 mechanism, remember, if the reaction takes place through SN2 mechanism, then attack of the nucleophile and loss of leaving group. And the loss of leaving group, it occurs in the same step. SN1 में क्या हो रहा था? First dissociation, in the second step attack of nucleophile. But in an SN2 reaction, attack of the nucleophile and loss of the leaving group occurs in the same step. Okay. Now, before the products are formed, the reaction proceeds through a transition state. A transition state means it represents a state we have done in your chemical kinetics. Okay. So transition state means before the products are formed. Okay. Transition state is a state with maximum energy. Remember energy potential diagram. Okay. So how do you represent the transition state? The bonds which are about to be broken are shown by dotted lines like this. And the bonds which are about to be formed, a new bond between nucleophile and carbon is about to be formed. It is shown by dotted lines like this. And we also show the respective charges. What is the charge on carbon? Positive. What is the charge on this leaving group? Negative. What is the charge on this nucleophile? Negative. So this is a transition state, and the transition state are very, very, very unstable. That is why it is enclosed within a square bracket like this. So this state is known as a transition state. And remember, in the transition state, the carbon is pentavalent. It has bonded by 5 bonds. It's very unstable. So since it is very unstable, it decomposes. It immediately decomposes to form the product like this. It immediately decomposes to give the product like this. Okay. So ultimately there will be a loss of leaving group and the nucleophile will form a bond with the carbon. Fine. Is it understood? So it is a single step reaction with the loss of halide or leaving group and the attack of nucleophile occurs in the same step. Now here, is it possible for the nucleophile to attack from this side? No, it is blocked by the leaving group. So there is only one possibility out here. There is only one possibility. The nucleophile has to attack the carbon from the opposite side of the leaving group. The leaving group is leaving from this direction. So there is only one possibility that the nucleophile has to attack from the opposite side. Now, since the nucleophile forms a bond from the side opposite to that of the leaving group, we say that here the products are formed with 100% inversion of configuration. The products are formed with 100% inversion of configuration. So SN1, yes, what is happening? 50% product with inversion, 50% product with retention. But here retention is not possible. because this reaction is occurring in a single step. It's not possible for the nucleophile to approach the carbon from this direction because the path is already blocked by the leaving group. It has to attack from the opposite side like this, okay, giving us 100% product with inversion of configuration. So this is the slowest step. Actually, we have only one step. This is the slowest step. So since two molecules are involved out here, what are the two molecules which are involved out here? The molecules which are involved are here alkyl halide. And what is the other reactant? Nucleophile. The nucleophile is also involved. So since two molecules are involved in the rate determining step, we say it is a bimolecular reaction. SN2. 2 stands for bimolecular. Why bimolecular? Because in the rate determining step, two molecules are involved in the rate determining step. So here the rate is equal to K, concentration of alkyl halide and concentration of nucleophile. So remember, unlike SN1 reaction, the rate, it depends upon the concentration of nucleophile as well. In SN1 reaction, just alkyl halide was involved. But here, a nucleophile is also involved in the rate determining step. Means, if I increase the concentration of nucleophile, the rate will increase. Or if I increase the concentration of alkyl halide, then also the rate will increase. Okay. So the rate, it depends upon the concentration of both the alkyl halide as well as the nucleophile. And remember out here, no restrict mixture are formed, so the product of SN2 reaction can be optically active depending upon this group. Say if this carbon is chiral, it can be optically active, but the product of SN1 reactions are always optically inactive. So this is the mechanism of SN2 reaction, and this is the stereochemistry of your SN2 reaction. This is the mechanism and stereochemistry of your SN2 reaction. Okay, so the main difference. So we have learned that SN1 reaction, yes, it depends upon the stability of carbocation. The reactants which gives a stable carbocation, the reactants which give a stable carbocation reacts readily by SN1 mechanism. Now we are going to study what are the factors on which the rate of an SN2 reaction depends upon. Okay. So now I'm going to give you 4 compounds out here. Okay, I'm going to just write down the structure of 4 compounds. Suppose the leaving group is same, so here I have 3 hydrogen. Okay, or I'm going to write down one, say chlorine. I'm going to draw another molecule like this. I'm going to substitute one hydrogen by methyl group. So what is it? This CH3CH2Cl. Next, I'm going to substitute one more hydrogen by a methyl group. Okay. And here I'm going to substitute all the 3 hydrogen by a methyl group like this. This. Okay. So this is methyl chloride, this is ethyl chloride, CH3CH2Cl. What is the IUPAC name of this compound? CH3CH, So this is a 2-degree alkyl halide. This is a 3-degree alkyl halide. Okay, so this is a 1-degree alkyl halide. This is a 2-degree alkyl halide. This is a 2-degree carbon. The halogen is attached to 3-degree carbon. So it's an example of 3-degree alkyl halide. And this is a methyl halide. Fine. Now listen very carefully. Now, in all the cases, there is an electronegativity difference. The carbon is electron deficient out here. The carbon is electron deficient. Now, if this undergoes reaction through SN2 mechanism, then what will happen in the first step? In the first step, the nucleophile is going to attack the electron deficient carbon atom. The nucleophile will attack the electron deficient carbon atom in all the cases. Okay, it will attack the electron deficient carbon atom. From which side? From the side opposite to that of the leaving group. Leaving group yahan se ja raha hai. Leaving group is going from this direction. Okay. So this is the condition. This is the condition. Okay, so on all the 4 cases, The nucleophile is attacking the electron deficient carbon atom. Now you tell me where it is most easier for the nucleophile to attack the electron deficient carbon atom. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, where is it most easy for the nucleophile to attack the electron deficient carbon atom? Okay, so remember tetrahedral A, leaving group was departing from this direction, the nucleophile is attacking from this direction, and this carbon is bonded to other groups. Now, as the size of these groups increases, what will happen to the nucleophile? It becomes easier or it becomes difficult for it to attack the carbon atom. So obviously, with the increase in the size of the atom or group, okay, the attack of the nucleophile becomes more and more difficult due to, due to steric hindrance. It becomes difficult for the nucleophile to just attack this carbon because it has to squeeze in now. There are big groups blocking its path. So as the size of the group increases, okay, it becomes difficult for the nucleophile to attack the electron deficient carbon atom. It becomes more and more difficult. So on what factors does the SN2 reaction depend? SN2 reaction depends upon the size of these groups. The size of increases, hindrance increases. Okay, with the increase in the size, with the increase in the bulk of these groups, okay, or with the increase in the steric hindrance, the attack of the nucleophile becomes more and more difficult. So yes, I can conclude now, as the steric hindrance increases, as the steric hindrance increases, okay, what will happen? It becomes more difficult for the nucleophile to attack the carbon atom. Yes, so as the steric hindrance increases, I can say the reactivity towards here SN2 reaction decreases. So in this particular case, what is the order of reactivity? Steric hindrance सबसे कम कहाँ पर होगा? Steric hindrance is least in this case because there are three small hydrogen atoms. As we go, the hydrogen atom gets replaced by methyl group, the size of which is bigger. So as the size of the group increases, as the steric hindrance increases, the attack of the nucleophile becomes more and more difficult. So in the case of tertiary alkyl halides, it becomes very difficult for the nucleophile to attack this carbon because of the presence of three bulks. So what is the order of reactivity towards SN2 reaction then? So methyl halides are most reactive, followed by 1 degree alkyl halides, followed by 2 degree alkyl halides, followed by 3 degree alkyl halides. So this is the reactivity towards your SN2 reaction. Fine. And what was the reactivity towards SN1 reaction? Yes, what did we discuss in the last class? 3 degree alkyl halides gives a more stable 3 degree carbocation. So this alkyl halide was most reactive. So towards SN1 reaction is just the opposite. Methyl halides are least reactive, followed by 1 degree alkyl halides, okay, followed by 2 degree alkyl halides, followed by 3 degree alkyl halides. So the reactivity of alkyl halides towards SN1 and SN2 reaction are just the opposite. Okay, SN1 3 degree most reactive, SN2 3 degree least reactive. And remember, SN2 reaction, how will you discuss the reactivity? The reactivity depends upon the ease with which the nucleophile can attack the carbon atom. Okay, it depends on the steric hindrance. So as the steric hindrance increases, the reactivity towards SN2 reaction will decrease. The reactivity towards SN2 reaction will decrease. SN2 reaction arrange in increasing order of reactivity towards your SN2 reaction. Okay. So what are the things which are given? 2 bromo, 2 methyl butane, 1 bromo pentane, and 2 bromo pentane. So we are supposed to arrange this 3 in increasing order of reactivity towards your SN2 reaction. So let us see, let us draw the structure. What is the word root? But. There should be 4 carbon atoms. 2 bromo, 2 methyl means 2 may we have a methyl as well as bromine. So next we put down hydrogen out here. Fine. So number 2 we have 1 butane. We have this, and 2 bromopentane. Next we have 2 bromopentane. We have this 2 bromopentane. Fine. So I'll label this. It becomes easier. I'll label this 1, 2, 3. So how will you solve this question? Now we have to look about the nature of this alkyl halide. So this alkyl halide, I think it's an example of a 3-degree alkyl halide. Since the halogen is bonded through a 3-degree carbon. Yes, and this is an example of a 1-degree alkyl halide. And here the halogen is attached to a 2-degree carbon. So this is an example of a 2-degree alkyl halide. So I think the steric hindrance is maximum out here. Then remember the nucleophile has to attack this carbon atom, right? So here we have 3 bulky groups. In tertiary carbon, okay, in tertiary alkyl halide, the steric hindrance will be maximum. So yes, it becomes most difficult for the nucleophile to attack this carbon. Here the steric hindrance is least because the nucleophile has to attack this carbon. Fine. So this carbon is bonded to one very big group, but at the same time it is bonded to 2 small hydrogen atom out here. So steric hindrance will be least out here. That means it becomes easiest for the nucleophile to attack out here, followed by this. Okay. So what is the order of reactivity towards SN2 reaction? Yes, tell me. What will be the order? Yes, tell me now. Which will be most reactive out of 1, 2, and 3? Which one will be most reactive? Yes, yes, yes.
1 degree. Number 2.
1 degree. Yes, number 2. Remember 1 degree followed by 3 degree followed by this. Okay. 1 degree will be the most reactive, followed by 2 degree, followed by 3 degree. So yes, this type of questions are in plenty. Okay, this type of questions are abundant in your board level. Okay, इस बार भी आया था, इस बार boards में आया था one question from this particular segment. So if you just have the concept, okay, if you just have the concept, what are the factors on which it depends, you can easily answer this. It should not be a problem. So I'm going to give you another question. Okay, so let us solve this and let us move towards the next topic now. Let me solve this first. Okay, so 1 bromobutane, number 1 molecule is here, 1 bromobutane. Fine. The second one is here. The second one is here 1 bromo, 2, 2 dimethyl propane, 2, 2 dimethyl propane. So number 3, I will write it out. Okay? Number 3 is 1 bromo, 2 methyl butane. One bromo, 2 methyl butane. Number 4 is a 1 bromo, 3 methyl butane. One bromo, 3 methyl butane. Okay, now let me have a look at the structures. So 1 bromobutane, I'm going to draw it CH3, CH2, 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 Br. So 1 bromo, 2, 2 dimethyl propane. So 1 bromo means in one position I have bromine out here. 2, 2 dimethyl. Second, I have 2 methyl groups, dimethyl propane. So this is the second one. Third one is 1 bromo, 2 methyl butane. So 2 methyl, 1 bromo. Fine, this is the structure I suppose. You can draw the structures. 1 bromo, 3 methyl butane. Yes. Fine, so these are the 4 structures, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Okay, so these are the 4 halides, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Just have a look at these 4 structures. Okay, here the nucleophile is going to attack this carbon. Here the nucleophile is going to attack this carbon. Nucleophile is going to attack this carbon. Nucleophile is going to attack this carbon. Now tell me, number 1 alkyl halide, it comes under which category? 1 degree, 2 degree, or 3 degree? It comes under the category of, yes, which 1 degree. Fine, it's an example of 1 degree. What about the second one, guys? What about the second one?
1 degree.
1 degree. Okay, this carbon is bonded to directly to only one carbon. 1 degree. What about the third one?
1 degree.
1 degree. What about the fourth one?
1 degree.
1 degree. Fourth one is also 1 degree. Now there is a problem. Because if you have 1 degree, 2 degree, 3 degree, the order of reactivity is very simple. Yes. But here in all the cases, in all the 4 cases, okay, we have 1 degree alkyl halide. So how are you going to discuss out here? Now see, I'm telling you repeatedly, the nucleophile is going to attack this carbonate. Okay, now, if the alkyl halide is a straight chain like this, if the alkyl halide is a straight chain, so it becomes quite easy for the nucleophile to attack this carbon. It's a straight chain. But as the branching increases, look out here, okay, as the branching increases, okay, so is it possible for the nucleophile to attack this carbon? Is it possible for the nucleophile? Is it possible for the nucleophile to attack this carbon? It is very difficult. Why? Because of the presence of a very big group, or because of the presence of branching. So it is said that this compound is known as a neopentyl bromide. There is a neo group out here, neopentyl bromide. Okay, so neopentyl bromide, although it is a 1 degree halide, it does not undergo SN2 reaction. It does not undergo SN2 reaction because of steric hindrance, because of the presence of a bulky tertiary butyl group out here. So as due to the branching, it becomes very difficult for the nucleophile to attack this carbon. Got my point? Now in this case, here there is a single branching, here there is a single branching. So we can easily compare the reactivity. So this is far more reactive than this because this is a straight chain without any branching. So if there are no branches like this, the nucleophile can easily attack out here. But here, due to the presence of 2 branches, it becomes difficult for the nucleophile to attack this carbon. Now in the third and fourth case, we have 1 branching, here also we have 1 branching. But if I just ask you this question, where it is easier for the nucleophile to attack the carbon atom, 3 or 4, what will be your answer? Where is it
4.
easy for the nucleophile? 4. Why 4?
Because it is farther away.
Very good, excellent, because the branching is far away from this carbon atom. Here the branching is closer to this carbon atom. So yes, again it becomes difficult for the nucleophile to attack this carbon. So there is a very important NCERT based question. Here we have equal number of branches, but if the brancher is closer to this electron deficient carbon atom, then the attack of nucleophile becomes difficult. Here it becomes difficult for the nucleophile to attack this carbon as compared to here. Here the branching, okay, there is a branching, but it's quite far. Okay. So what is the order of reactivity then towards SN2 out here? Which will be the most reactive? Chalo batao. Which alkyl halide will be the most reactive? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Obviously, most reactive towards SN2 will be 1. Fine. So this will be least reactive. Out of these 2, branching is quite far away from this carbon. So 4 will be more reactive than 3. And remember, the least reactive is going to be 2. The least reactive is going to be 2. So I've discussed 2 questions out here. So one very famous question which had come in a board exam level. Okay, we have a neo group out here. So we have discussed earlier in this chapter itself, this group is known as a neo group. If we have this grouping, it's known as a neo group. So this is also known as a neopentyl bromide. This is also known as a neopentyl bromide. I can write it out here as a neopentyl bromide. So although it is a 1-degree alkyl halide, it rarely undergoes SN2 reaction because of the presence of a bulky, because of the presence of 2,2 branching out. Okay, so these are the category of questions which you might expect in your boards level. And again, just like SN1 reaction, remember, just like SN1 reaction, if the alkyl group is same and if the halides are different, then the reactivity towards SN2 reaction is alkyl iodide will be most reactive, followed by alkyl bromide, followed by alkyl chloride. Again, reason, iodide is a better leaving group. Same reason, okay? This is a, iodide is a better leaving group. So I have done in details. We have done in details. Okay, we have not left any topic out. We have done in details about the mechanism, stereochemistry, factors affecting SN1, SN2 reaction. Okay, what is the order of reactivity? How do we compare the order of reactivity? Fine. So we have done in detail. So nucleophilic substitution reaction is over. Nucleophilic substitution reaction is over. It was a very big topic. It was a major topic. So one still is left. We have not discussed yet the nucleophilic substitutions of your aryl halides. So we have discussed only till alkyl halides. Okay. So we'll be doing that in the next class, and hopefully in the next class, I think we'll just finish this chapter. So today there were 3 reactions. We have finished reaction with metals. We have done nucleophilic substitution reaction, a big topic. Now I'm going to straight away move towards here elimination reaction. I'm going to discuss here elimination reaction. Elimination reaction. What is elimination reactions? Okay, what is it formed? What are the products? Okay, so this is the third reactions which are undergone by alkyl halides, elimination reaction. Okay, so remember, elimination of alkyl halides, it occurs in the presence of strong bases such as, it occurs in the presence of very strong bases such as here alcoholic, not aqueous, alcoholic QH, or instead of this, your alcohol and QH might be given, this alcoholic QH, or these two will react to give us ethyl oxide ion like this. So either of these three, eh? These three means the same, alcoholic QH, alcohol in presence of QH, or this. Okay. So what are the other strong bases? Say amide or sodamide, or instead of this, just the NH2 part might be given. These are very strong bases, say, or yeah, CH3, CH3, O negative. So this is known as a tertiary butoxide. So these are strong bases. These are a strong base. Okay. So elimination reaction, it occurs in the presence of this strong base. So in the NCERT and in the ISC part, mostly we'll be using either this or this. But yes, we should have a concept of other strong bases as well. So what is the elimination reaction and what type of products are formed? Okay, now see, listen very carefully. Suppose we have an alkyl halide like this. We have an alkyl halide like this. This is a halogen and we have a hydrogen out. Now, the carbon containing the halogen will be known as a alpha carbon. It will be known as a alpha carbon. So obviously the carbon next to the alpha carbon will be known as a beta carbon. It will be known as a beta carbon. Okay, alpha carbon and a beta carbon. So what is an alpha carbon? The carbon which is attached to halogen. The carbon which is attached to halogen is known as a alpha carbon. So what is a beta carbon? The next carbon. Now, in presence of a strong base such as a alcoholic QH. Okay, so let me ask you a question. What happens in presence of aqueous QH? What happens in presence of aqueous QH? Yes, what will be the answer? What happens in presence of aqueous QH? Alkyl halide aqueous QH. What will happen? What type of reaction will you see?
Addition reaction.
No. Substitution reaction. X gets substituted by OH. Yes, we have done it. No? Nucleophilic. Aqueous QH, aqueous NaOH. Remember? Moist silver oxide, alcoholic KCl. So in presence of aqueous QH, this halogen gets substituted by OH. So these are very fundamental things. Okay. So मतलब अब ये सब बोलोगे तो yes. Okay. तुम लोगों को पाप लगेगा ये सब. ठीक है. So the fact is that now what happens? Alcoholic QH, it acts as a base. Actually, alcoholic QH means alcohol and QH will generate this base. So what is the base generated out here? Ethoxide ion, C2H5O negative ion. So actually what will the base do? The base, यहाँ पर जो base है, what is the role of a base? What does a base do? What does a base do? A base will abstract a proton. That's the role of a base. So actually it will abstract this proton. Proton means without the electron. These two electrons will go out here. It will form a bond and there will be a loss of leaving group like this. So this is the actually mechanism. No need to go through the mechanism. So I'm just, you need to know what does a base do? Why are we using this base? Because what is the role of a base? A base will abstract this beta hydrogen. Okay, proton actually, not hydrogen. So these two electrons are going to shift out here. A new bond is going to be formed and there will be a loss of this group. So what is being lost out here? What is being lost? Alpha carbon say halogen and beta carbon say hydrogen. So there is a loss of HX. Okay, remember alpha carbon, from alpha carbon halogen is lost, from beta carbon hydrogen is lost. And since beta hydrogen is lost, this type of elimination reactions are also known as here beta elimination reaction. This type of reactions are also known as a beta elimination. Why beta elimination? Because the beta hydrogen is lost. So just simply, how will you simplify the things? Okay, just remember, from the alpha carbon halogen will be eliminated, from the beta carbon hydrogen will be eliminated, and in between the alpha and beta carbon a double bond will be formed like this. Bus. A double bond will be formed. So alkyl halides, they undergo this type of elimination reaction to form an alkene. So yes, alkyl halide to alkene. We have done the reverse reaction, alkene to alkyl halide. We have discussed here, alkyl halide to alkene. Okay, now see, I'll give you some reactions which you can easily solve on your own. Okay, so let us clear a concept right away. Okay, so what is the concept? Alpha carbon say halogen, yes, and from beta carbon hydrogen. So suppose I give you this CH3, CH2, CH2, Br, fine, alcoholic H. But unless and until you remember these reagents, we can't solve it. Eh? Aqueous QH, if I used aqueous QH, Br was getting substituted by OH. But here I am using alcoholic QH. Now I know in presence of alcoholic QH, elimination occurs. How do elimination occur? The halogen which is attached to carbon, this carbon which is attached to halogen is known as the alpha carbon. From the alpha carbon, there will be a loss of halogen. And from the beta carbon, there will be a loss of hydrogen. Okay, that means HBr is going to get lost. HBr is getting eliminated. And in between the alpha and the beta carbon, a double bond will form. So one hydrogen was lost from here. But we get propene like this. One bromopropane to propene. So alkyl halide to alkenes like this. Okay, you can easily do it. So if I give you 2 bromopropane or 2 chloropropane, whatever. So give me the product now. So remember again, this is the alpha carbon. So there are two beta carbon out here, but both contain same number of hydrogen. Huh? This beta carbon also contains 3, this beta carbon also contains 3. So it should not be an issue which hydrogen is eliminated, the product will be same. If this hydrogen is eliminated, then also the product will be the same, or if this hydrogen is eliminated, the product will be the same. So the thing is that alpha carbons are halogen and beta carbons are hydrogen. So CH3, CH, double bond, CH2. So this is the main product. Propene again. Okay. So I'll give you one more. I'll give you one more. So you're finding it easy? Yes, it's very easy. You just need to remember the reagent and remember the fact that during elimination, alpha from alpha carbon, your halogen is eliminated, and from the beta carbon, your hydrogen is eliminated. Okay. Okay, now this. Now again, this is the alpha carbon. This is the beta carbon. This is the beta carbon. Now there is a problem. What is the problem? If this hydrogen is eliminated, then we get butene, double bond will come out here. But if this beta hydrogen is eliminated, the double bond is going to come out. Yes, there is a problem because the two beta carbon are not the same. Here the two beta carbon were same, CH3, CH3, but here they are CH2 and CH3. So here there are two possibilities which are formed. There are two possibilities. So again, remember the reagent used is your alcoholic KOH. The reagent used is your alcoholic KOH. Okay, so try to draw both the products out. Achha, so what are the two products now? Yes, tell me guys, what are the two products? Got my point. Here, if this hydrogen is eliminated, then alpha carbon from alpha carbon, halogen will get eliminated. One possibility is this hydrogen might get eliminated. So one possibility is we might get this product. So what is this? Butene. So if this hydrogen gets eliminated, then double bond will come out. Butene. So there are two products out here. Single product is formed. There is not an issue. What out here? There are a possibility of two products which are being formed. So which one will be the major product? Which one will be the major product? Okay, which of these product will be the major product is governed by a rule. It is governed by a rule which is known as a Set-Gibbs rule. Set-Gibbs rule. Okay. So in addition, we have to follow Markovnikov's rule, and in elimination, we have to follow Set-Gibbs. So what does it state? It states that the double bond is formed between those two carbon atoms, okay, containing lesser number of hydrogen atoms. Or I can say in some texts you will find that the less substituted product, sorry, the more substituted product, substituted alkene, the more substituted alkene will be the major product. So this is what is commonly known as a Set-Gibbs rule. So if you have two possibilities, if we see there are two types of beta hydrogen, then which will be the major product? It will depend upon this. Now, what is the thing? You simply have to count the number of hydrogen atom between the alpha and the beta carbon. So let us consider this. So in between this alpha and this beta, how many hydrogen are there? How many hydrogen do you see, guys? Yes, tell me. In between this carbon and this carbon, how many hydrogen do you see? We see 3 hydrogen atom. Yes, 3. In between this alpha and this beta, how many hydrogen do we see? We see 3 plus 1, 4. Which will be the major product? The double bond should be formed between those two carbon atoms containing lesser number of hydrogen. That means according to Sergev rule, double bond should be formed between these two carbon atoms as they contain lesser number of hydrogen. These two carbon contains more number of hydrogen. So according to this rule, this should not be the major product. So out of these two products, which will be the major product? This is going to be a major product. Okay, double bond contains how many hydrogen? 2. Double bond contains how many hydrogen? 3. So double bond should be formed between those two carbon atoms containing lesser number of hydrogen. This should be the major product and this will be the minor product. So this is what is known as here Sergev's rule. Okay, so if you are confused as to which one will be the major product, you just have to follow this rule, Sergev rule. So what does it state? It states that the double bond will be formed between those two carbon atoms containing lesser number of hydrogen. Okay. Now, what did I write out? A more substituted alkene. Here, 2 hydrogen has been substituted by 2 alkyl groups. In between the double bonded carbon, instead of 2 hydrogen, I have 2 alkyl groups. But here, in between the double bond, I have 2 hydrogen. Only 1 hydrogen has been substituted by an ethyl group. So this is more substituted, this is less substituted. Here the 2 hydrogens has been substituted by, I can say here the 2 hydrogen, instead of 2 hydrogen I have 2 methyl group. Here instead of 1 hydrogen I have 1 ethyl group. So this is less substituted, this is more substituted. The more substituted alkene will be the major product. Okay, I think it's understood now. So these are going to come in your, board level. Okay, so these are the questions which we expect in the board level. So now, just by keeping in mind this Sergev rule, I'll just end up today's class by giving you. So I need to discuss one more thing. Okay, predict the major product. Predict the major product. Okay, again, this is an halide. I have alcoholic QH. As soon as I see these, I know we are talking about elimination reaction. So this is the alpha carbon. So this is the beta carbon. This is the beta carbon, and this is the beta carbon. How many beta carbon are there? There are 3. So this is CH3. This means CH3. Okay, how many hydrogens are there out here? Valency 1, 2. There are 2 hydrogen. There are 2 hydrogen. That means this beta carbon and this beta carbon are identical because both contains 2 hydrogen atom. So what will happen? From alpha carbon, halogen will get eliminated. From beta carbon, hydrogen will get eliminated, and double bond will come. So let us see. Double bond will come out here like this. Plus, which product can I expect? Next product. From the alpha carbon, halogen will go. From the beta carbon, 1 hydrogen will go. So double bond might come out here. Double bond might come out here like this. Double bond might come out here. Now the thing is, you should predict the major product. It's very easy. So in between this alpha and beta, how many hydrogen are there? 2 hydrogen. Here there are 2 hydrogen. There is no hydrogen out here. There are 2 hydrogen. In between this alpha and this beta, how many hydrogen are there? 3. So Sergev rule, double bond should be formed between those 2 carbon atoms containing lesser number of hydrogen. So obviously double bond यहाँ form होना चाहिए. So this is the major product. This is the major product. Simple application of Sergev rule. Okay. And please remember one very important fact. Please remember one very important fact. It's very important. Please remember it. The order of reactivity towards elimination reaction. order of reactivity towards elimination reaction. So what is the order of reactivity towards elimination reaction? Remember, the order of reactivity is 3-degree alkyl halides will be most reactive, okay, followed by 2-degree alkyl halides, followed by 1-degree alkyl. So this is the order of reactivity towards the elimination reaction. Okay, so I'm not going into details as mechanism is not there in your syllabus. So just remember the simple fact that the order of reactivity of alkyl halides towards elimination reaction is 3-degree alkyl halides will be the most reactive, followed by 2-degree, followed by 1-degree. Okay, now whatever question answers can we expect from you? I'll just give you two things. Okay, you try to do this on your own. Okay, you try to do this on your own. 1 bromopropane, 2 bromopropane, 1 bromopropane. Okay,